In early 2017, an invitation arrived to travel to Cuba with a group known internationally as NAME, National Association for Multicultural Education. It would be a repeat trip for many in the group, looking to explore this country full of diversity, compassion, and caring.
It's not intended to be a political trip or to make a political statement, but to collaborate, build relationship, and come to understand more about our neighbors.
As executive director of NAME, Betty Tate Beavers runs the nonprofit organization whose mission is one of social justice and equity in education.
NAME's mission is to advance and advocate for educational equity and social justice through multicultural education. We're an international organization founded in 1990, and coming to Cuba when it was announced, normalization was announced by President Obama in December of 2014, coming to Cuba seemed natural. Part of it was to just be able to meet and talk with people that we were not allowed to meet and talk with previously, at least not on Cuban land. And to be sure that we understood from the Cuban people's perspective what their life was about and what their world was like. Because through NAME, we want to understand culture and heritage. We also wanted to collaborate, work with the people to people, with Cubans, to know more about how they managed to have such an incredibly high literacy rate and to have maintained it for so long when they're in a country that has so few resources.
NAME was the passion of Rose Duhan Sells, a celebrated author, educator, and champion of social justice. She garnered the support of higher education experts across the United States to form this unique platform of sharing knowledge and resources for better educational opportunity for others. Dr. H. Prentice Batiste is one of the founding NAME members and a past president of the organization. Dr. Batiste is an educator at New Mexico State University and author of several books on multicultural education.
And we look at the idea of multicultural education as being an umbrella, i.e., some people are more interested in racism and multicultural education. Some are interested in the languages that sometimes, in terms of bilingual education, etc., that are not given credit for what that language significance is for a group of people. In others, there may be the concern of ageism, the concern related to classism, casteism. All of those concerns are out there, and we felt that if we had a diverse group of people meeting and discussing these through various avenues, such as journals and journal articles, special issues of multicultural perspectives, or special books that may be developed, such as this book that came out during the 25th anniversary of NAME, that would give an opportunity for us to share our concerns with a larger public.
With that thought in mind, our 2-week journey became a learning adventure with a tightly packed schedule of educational and historic stops. NAME members on this journey met in Florida for the 90-minute flight to Havana. 23 people, mostly strangers to one another, were eager to learn and make a difference. It's what we often see in those who exemplify the American spirit. They were educators, activists, physicians, attorneys, and journalists from California to D.C. and a half-dozen states in between.
It's a new adventure each time I've come to Cuba. What I have found is that each trip takes me deeper into the country, deeper into knowing the people, deeper into experiencing different aspects of Cuba, seeing the value of each new trip.
Topics like inclusion, sustainability, literacy, and indigenous populations dominated the conversations aboard the guided tour bus.
Everybody ready to have a beautiful experience?
In the past 2 years, more than 1 million Americans have visited Cuba. That's a 60% jump over previous years. Tourism isn't new to Cuba. In fact, there are beach resorts filled with Canadians and Europeans enjoying the signature mojitos and magnificent sunsets. On warm evenings, Cubans always populate the Malecon, the seawall and walkway that serves as a collective front porch for people seeking fresh air and relief from their warm and often overcrowded homes. Many refer to this as the Cuban living room or the world's longest sofa, where everyone comes to socialize and debate. The cars along the Havana seafront are colorful and classic, but the result of a 1962 embargo on U.S. imports. We enjoyed a taxi ride in a vintage 1940 Chevy, our own experience of being trapped in a time warp. While Havana is typically the main destination, visitors appeared eager to see places such as Cienfuegos, Trinidad, and Santa Clara, stopping to absorb what they could from the locals or visiting museums.
It's very much in line with the mission of NAME to look at our history, warts and all, we say, so that we really understand everything that went on and can integrate that into our understanding of the real honest impact the United States have had on the rest of the world.
Almost every city in Cuba offers public hotspots. This requires buying a $2 access card for about an hour of Wi-Fi. Across this 800-mile island, people consider Facebook a national sport, and the billboards, those are reserved for public service announcements. Cuba boasts a graduation rate of 92% and a literacy rate even higher. College students and young professionals started a grassroots project here known as Esperal, dedicated to a wide variety of initiatives, including health and wellness, the environment, and sustainability. Members are now working closely with NAME, and in a historic move, NAME chartered a chapter in Cuba in 2017. Introducing us to Esperal was our tour guide, Rita Pereira Ramirez.
These are oil refineries that are on the other side of the bay.
The tiny, bespectacled woman was also an attorney, college professor, lecturer, and published author, finishing up doctoral research on gender studies in Cuba. She explained, with unemployment at 48%, there is more money to be made in tourism than with the typical government job. Many of Cuba's buildings are crumbling, but behind the shabby facades, we found a gold mine of stories to be told. From the colonial mansion restaurants rich with authentic cuisine and music, to tiny gift shops full of handmade wares unlike any in America. Deep into Habana, as the locals pronounce it, we were granted a rare glimpse inside one family's home and lifestyle.
Hola, Mayra.
Her name was Maita, a 70-something woman with dark, wavy hair and the kindest eyes we'd ever seen. She told us about her teenage son, Giovanni, who fled Cuba in 1994 on a boat headed for Miami. While he had arrived safely in America, her heart ached at the thought of never seeing him again. It was through the work of a NAME member that we were able to give Maita photos of Giovanni, now a 40-year-old husband and father living in the Midwest, and pictures of his children, the grandchildren she's never seen and likely never will. We were invited to stay for a delicious dinner of pumpkin soup and baked chicken. Over a good cup of Cuban coffee and a little wine, Maita shared stories about life in Cuba, the staggering poverty, and her hope for the future.
Salud. Salud. Salud.
The next day, as we stood on the massive staircase at the University of Havana, the work of NAME became clear.
NAME is so much, does so much for diversity, and this is such a diverse country, and there's so much that we can learn from them I guess I would say it puts me to shame. It helps me look at how I address things differently.
This was not a vacation, but a journey to enhance humanity, respect all cultures, and move to a social justice community.
NAME has the essence of who I am. The mission of NAME is to work for social justice, and that's everything about me, from my work to my personal life to my service, my research, my teaching. And so I network with a lot of people, I get great ideas. It helps me become a better social justice person and realize when I'm doing something that's maybe not as, unoffensive as I think it is. And being in Cuba has just strengthened my belief that we need to be global in our thinking about diversity and social justice, and that we have to reach out and become friends because we're all part of this world.
The Trump announcement in 2017 means Cuba travel will be more closely scrutinized, even for education purposes. But that decision may not keep Cubans and Americans apart, both intent on bridging the relationship and sharing all that is good about both countries.
NAME provides an exchange between our two countries and the rest of the world in such a way that I think would encourage more harmony in the world.
Would you come back here?
I would definitely come back here.
We left our Cuban friends with a tearful promise to return soon, giving Esperal members our friendship, encouragement, and most of all, hope. That's the American spirit.